came from food and you put it in MyFitnessPal, it'll tell you how many calories
There are other
are in
things
this
we could
piece of food.
figure out what that actually is.
Yeah. Or like at Target, you can scan that and.
Is it clip art or did they scan it from something?
Here, I'll
Like
see
it's
if
the Will
it
Myers
opens
thing.
anything in the Target app. It's not recognizing it. So it must not be.
It's not from Target.
No, it's not from Target. It's not a Target product. Yes, yeah, just for everything, it's basically, we talked about the bill.
It's good to be back in this room over here. It's good to be back in the room here. Is this? All right, here we go again. So it's good to be back in the room. We're going to talk about something fun, some entertainment. I have co-authors behind me. I'm going to start also by saying Senator Bingham is also supportive. However, she is in the Judiciary Committee, a committee which we highly esteem. She's upstairs and she can't get away. Also remiss if I didn't mention Representative Pat Garofalo in the House, who back in 2018 in May, after the Supreme Court had the ruling, was all over this. He loves this stuff, which is good. And I jumped on, and he's been a mentor since then. Well, what we have here is, I'll just start from the top. It's time to move Minnesota forward. We are an island in the Midwest, and not a tropical island. I should have skipped that part. The proposal here is good for tribes, it's good for tracks, but most importantly, it's good for the consumers. It gives Minnesotans gaming options for both mobile and brick and mortar and online vendors. It respects the tribal nations and provides a revenue stream to the state. And so there's no reason we shouldn't start with this proposal and move forward to get this done. That's the high-level piece. I'll give you a couple of the, we're rewriting the bill now. We already have a bill both in the Senate and the House. We're rewriting it and we'll amend new language into that. In part, that new language will contain, at the minimum, brick and mortar for the tribes and for the two racetracks, Canterbury and Running Aces. It will also contain a minimum of at least 2 mobile licenses. So they'll be online and mobile. Of course, the compact would control the sports books on tribal land, and then we'd have licenses for the 2 racetracks because they're outside of tribal land. The mobile online licenses would be controlled by the state, and all bets going through there would be subject to a transaction tax, a sales tax, or some other sort of gross receipts tax. We have not figured out where or exactly where to put that or how much that necessarily will be. Part of the money will also be used right now for, my hope is purses for the 2 tracks. So that's the high level, kind of the mechanisms. There's a lot of areas, a lot of places people want this money to go, the tax revenue. I've been saying from the first day, this is not a big cash cow. This is about consumers and customers and having some fun. and putting a legitimate form, legalizing a legitimate form of entertainment for the state of Minnesota and its consumers. So with that, I will let anybody else has something to say briefly, and then we'll have questions.
Sure. Hi, I'm Senator Julia Coleman, Senate District 47, representing Carver County. This was an easy one for me to support. In fact, when I decided to run for the state Senate, this was the one promise my husband made me keep, was that I would push to legalize sports betting. This is a market that is hungry for this to happen in Minnesota. This is something that people of Minnesota want to see happen, that they're quite frankly traveling across the border to make happen in our sister states. And so I think that this is a win-win scenario for the people of Minnesota and for the state of Minnesota, and it has my full support.
Thank you, State Senator Karin Housley. And this is a very, very popular issue in the state of Minnesota. I was just at a luncheon in Cottage Grove to a group of 70 and 80-year-old guys, and I was talking to them about what we're doing here at the Capitol and public safety and decrease your taxes, and they clapped when I talked about no tax on Social Security, and then I said, and I gotta leave because I'm going over to the Capitol because we're doing a sports betting press conference, and they were like, what? I said, yeah, we want to legalize sports betting in Minnesota. Got the biggest cheer ever from 70 and 80-year-old guys. So it is really, really a popular issue, not just among the younger generation. As a matter of fact, there's a couple of sergeants on our floor, on the Senate floor. I'm not allowed to say their names, but they are also sports betting on their phones. And I've taken a couple of trips across the state border to Iowa to do it, and we got to keep this money here in our state. It generates billions of dollars in revenue and billions of dollars of tax revenues for our state that can be used for many different things, like Senator Chamberlain said. So it's really, really time that we get this done here in Minnesota. It's a win-win-win for the tribes, the tracts, and the consumers. Thank you.
Did you want to say something?
Hi, everybody. State Senator Mark Coran, representing Senate District 32, and they covered the most of it. I'm enthusiastically supporting it. It really brings something that's legal in many states and brings us the ability for us to provide the consumer protection and make sure that, one, we have good legal opportunity to, we don't force the younger generation to emulate an out-of-state IP address in order to partake, and we keep the revenue in Minnesota. So, thank you.
Okay, questions?
You mentioned that the state would control the online gaming operations, but in this news release it talks about sub-licenses issued by tribal nations to vendors for online gaming. Is that, can you clarify, or is
Sure.
there a separate way for the tribal governments to have a bite into the online operation?
So just again, on a high level, we've always wanted to protect the interests of the tribes. We get it. We want to do that. But we also have to have a good product for the customers. And that means we need competition. We need a variety of places and opportunities for that to happen. As you see with this little handout, in-person mobile casinos and racetracks. So to your question specifically, yes, to clarify, federal law, of course, controls the tribal lands. Things that happen on tribal lands are restricted to what the state can do. For instance, we can't tax that revenue and bring it in. We can get reasonable costs, could recover reasonable administrative costs for things that we do. We can't tax that. So the mobile piece, everybody understands, is outside tribal land. And because it's outside tribal land and there are transactions going on outside through the mobile, you're in Chaska or Owatonna or Fargo, East Grand Forks, and you're betting online, that's outside the tribal lands. So those transactions are controlled by the state. So the state, the way the law should be written and is written, is the state would control that piece of it and be able to tax those revenues. About 60-70% of the transactions right now are through mobile, maybe even higher. So does that help out?
Well, I guess just the idea of sub-licenses. So
Yes,
you're saying
okay.
The state will control 2 online operators and that funding or the revenues that would come for it, and they tax it. And then separately, tribal casinos could say, we are going to create our own online sportsbook or contract with X and control that.
Well, to put a finer point on that, right now, the way it's going to be written is the tribe will control those 2 online applications, right? They will have control of it. We get to license it because it's outside of the transactions will be taking place outside of the tribal lands for the most part. But they will control those licenses, right? And then they will have the ability, and the way I'm looking at it right now to have written, the way we're thinking about it, is they would have the ability to sub-license to their other tribes if they see fit. So does that help out? So, no? Okay.
I'm sorry.
Am I? The tribes will control that application and that process. They will get the revenue from it, okay? So they'll have, say for instance, there's 2 mobile licenses, right? They will control any sub-licenses that go out to other tribes or anybody else. And they get the revenue from the transactions to them, right? The only thing we get is a licensing fee for licensing that business to operate in Minnesota, the application, and for the sales tax taxed on those transactions. How's that?
That seems a little better.
I think it's clear.
So,
All off reservation.
all off reservation stuff. Anything on reservation is theirs. The licenses will be controlled by the tribes, right? And therefore, they will get any revenue from those transactions, all right?
Online game.
Online, mobile stuff, right?
So when they do it outside of the tribes, when I'm at home in Minneapolis.
Right, because you're outside of the tribal land, then that transaction is taxable, right?
Okay.
So if you're on the tribal land, right, we are hands off. But if you're off tribal land, like these licenses will be, they still control it. We'll let them control that and get the revenue. But we still have to tax the transactions because they're not there doing it. They're not there on physical insight.
So it's a risk of going down a rabbit hole. Does this require a new compact?
Most likely in the state of Minnesota, yes. Some states didn't, like Michigan did not because they already had a different setup there. Here, we're most likely going to have another compact. Typically, the way it works, as many of you might know, is that we can legalize something here, and then if they want to take part, and this is how the casinos work now, they enter into a compact with the state to be able to have those casinos on their tribal land. Now, that's part of federal law, so does that make sense?
Senator, have you been consulting with the tribal authorities prior to this proposal? Because they told me they heard about this news conference on KFAN. So have they been involved in these discussions?
So we have been involved in the discussions indirectly, right? Because we said a long time ago that we want to help the tribes out and protect their interests, but we want to also make this available to consumers in the state. So we're still at that point, so I know their position, but this is a very good spot for everybody to be in.
And as a follow-up to that, clearly any successful proposal is going to have to go through the Indian tribes. So you're going to consult with them moving forward to make sure they're on board?
Right, I mean, we always have, right? Indirectly, both. We have consulted with them. I want to protect their interests. We're going to negotiate with them. But I've said this more than once. In the reality of things, we do not need the tribes to do this. We only need the tribes because if there's agreement somewhere, I'm not going to politicize this, they will support some agreements and others they won't. And without that political support, then certain things don't happen. I don't want to get political about it, but we never needed their support to pass legislation. It's just a lobbying group that has a particular amount of leverage and power.
I think the governor has also said it's going to need their blessing.
Well, they're a lobbying group, and that is his prerogative. So, but baseline, you don't need the tribes to say, okay, go ahead. You only need them if the lobbying group is strong enough. So, to your point, yes, I agree. Yes.
John stole my rabbit hole joke, so I won't use it again. But this might qualify. It sounds like you think they will contract with the FanDuels and the DraftKings of the world, as opposed to setting up some mechanism of their own. But some states have not allowed those entities into the state. They've created their own sports betting mobile app.
Our desire and our hope is to allow flexibility to people, to organizations, the tribes in this case, or the tracks, to develop those relationships and contracts as they see fit. We have no problem with them creating arrangements and agreements with other organizations that frankly know how to run the business. That is why a lot of states bring in outside organizations who have a lot of experience doing this, because it makes it easier and they know how to do it. Now, if someone has the expertise and know how to do it, they'll keep it in-house. But there are benefits to contracting stuff like this out, right, no matter what it is. So we don't want to say you can't have them here, but anybody, this is how it is every other state. If you come in here, you want to participate in this, if you're going to be a vendor, or you're going to do mobile, or you want brick and mortar, and you're outside the tribal lands, you've got to pay a fee for the application and a license to operate. Does that make sense?
Could you make it a brick and mortar off reservation?
Yeah, I mean, that's part of our proposal. That'll be part of our proposal. 2 brick and mortar for each of the racetracks, and then we'll work a deal that can entice the tribe, protect the tribes, while also enhancing the business, entertainment and business experience, the entertainment and customer experience for the 2 tracks.
Senator, so forgive me, but we've been here before.
Yes,
several
we have.
times with a group of bipartisan lawmakers saying, we've got this great plan, the tribes really should love this plan, but the tribes aren't here, the tribes they're not signing on to this right now. What makes you think something has changed, or what has changed?
Senator Stevenson in the House, Representative Stevenson in the House, Senator Bingham, and conversations indirectly that I've heard, and also intuitively putting something together that will protect their interests. So we are saying, we got something here, for this will protect your interests, give you full rights. The state gets a little bit, the consumers get a lot, the state gets a little bit, and the 2 tracks get something as well. So it's a better package, protects their interests, there's money and revenue for them and for others.
Senator Bingham, you just invoked your name, and you haven't spoken yet. Do you want
First, thanks, I might need this step, but anyway. So, yeah.
Is this too high?
Yeah, that may have to bring that down. First, this is exciting. We just came off, lower it.
No, the whole thing actually goes
Oh,
up.
thank
And
you.
I do want, go the other way. I
This is
think.
bipartisan help too.
I've never had to do that.
That's because you're tall. I just don't want you to be cut off, that's all. All right.
So, thank you. First, we just came off a very exciting weekend, right? Millions of dollars was sports wagered throughout the state, but it was done having to go to Iowa, and that needs to stop. So that's one of the main reasons I'm coming here. The other highlight of the weekend is I beat Senator Housley in our fantasy football playoff league, so tweet that, please. And third, it's important that this obviously has to be bipartisan, and the tribes need to be involved. And it is important that their voice is honored and heard, and that is the intent, I believe, of how we are going to move forward. The bill that I've introduced in a bipartisan manner that is also similar to what Senator Chamberlain has done does include the racetracks on brick and mortar, and I do think that's an important part, but first and foremost, we do have to get everybody at the table to continue to discuss this, and I'm pleased with the progress that has been having in the conversations and the work that's gone in so far between Senator Chamberlain, Representative Stevenson, and everybody else that's involved in this. It is exciting, and I'm very hopeful we're going to get this across the finish line this year.
Representative Stevenson has indicated he's been in conversation with the tribe, he's going to have a plan forthcoming. It doesn't seem too far off from yours from what I gather. He wants a brick and mortar and an online version. But when that comes, knowing that perhaps that has to be buy-in of the tribes, would you be willing to accept that proposal?
Well, that's a broad question, right? It depends, as we would all say, it depends on what's in the proposal. But as to your question, right, as Senator Bingham mentioned, and as you alluded to, and as I mentioned, we got stuff there, we got stuff here, we've heard stuff indirectly, and as I've said, the tribes have always been part of this, and that is good. We've always wanted to protect that. So it depends on what is in their proposal, the brick and mortar and mobile, and some sort of package where, most importantly, the customer wins in this scenario. And in this scenario, with a few tweaks, everybody wins.
Fall 2023 is a long ways away. That's
Yep.
more than a Super Bowl away.
Yep.
Don't you want to get it sooner, maybe?
Well, it becomes administrative, right? We had to get it through all the committees, and we had to get it off the floor. The governor has to sign. We'll have negotiations, and there'll have to be signatures. And then we had to create the boards and the organization to do the research. Now, that timeline will be shortened because a lot of states have this, so the administrative process and all those details will be a little bit easier to put together, right? So that won't take as long, but there's still a lot of things to work out, and then you had to get it up and running. I said fall of 2023 because to say January of 2023 is, I mean, that doesn't give people a lot of time. If it moves up from there, that's great. But I think that might be a good time frame.
Senator, the gambling opponents are concerned about all gambling, of course, but especially online gambling because it's so hard to control, it's everywhere, and it's so
Yep.
pervasive. But in your mind, is any gambling proposal that does not include online kind of a non-starter, since that's how everything is?
I think all of us up here would agree, heads nodding, that you can't do it because that's where the business is at. That's where we live. We all have the phones, like it or not. That's where most of the business is. And if we don't do that, we won't, there will be no revenue here. So it has to be, we have to have an online component. We've always argued for that. And we wanted to make sure that it was, the tribes are comfortable with it. And I think this proposal, they'll be comfortable with it. And the good tagline is, the good tagline is, this is a winning ticket, and it's time for Minnesota to cash in. I think we could repeat that. This is a winning ticket. It's time for Minnesota to cash in on this. And I think this proposal is a beautiful start to that, you know, bipartisan and working with all the interested parties.
Anything in your plan for anti-gambling?
Oh, yes.
Counseling?
Yes. I mean, that'll be part of it. Some of those revenues will be, the original bill was that way, all the bills, we all would agree to that, that we'll have a percentage come off of either license fees or the sales tax revenue, transaction tax revenue, to go to the Gamblers Anonymous funds to help deal with that, yes.
Senator, can I have you expand on that? First, could you repeat that whole winning ticket line?
Yeah, sure. I'm being paid a lot. I'm not getting paid to repeat it.
I know you're excited, but it's either billions and billions or it's not a cash cow.
Well-
Is this 20 million a year or 40 million a year for the state?
Well, people are enthusiastic about the money, but for people like Representative Garofalo, myself, and others, I'd say, if I might say here, is that from the transactions of the betting itself, I've never claimed it's a cash cow. Never have, because you cannot put the tax and the fee so high that it is going to prohibit people from participating because there's competition now, right? They'll go other places. So it was never going to be a cash cow. It's going to be enough to take care of the administrative costs and put some money into some other programs. If it becomes more and more, well, that's great. But we've never said it's a cash cow. It's about entertainment. It's about doing something you like and engaging in that entertainment.
Okay, New Jersey, $45 million last year.
Mm-hmm.
Does that sound right? Less than that?
I think eventually we get here. I mean, if you do rough math, I think, what was it, Carl, you might know, Iowa, I think over the year did a 1.35 billion.
Yeah.
And,
Got 300 million from it, maybe?
right, so if you tax on the gross, then you're getting about 300. If you put a 3% tax on the 1.35 billion, you're getting 300 million, right? No, not 300 million, you're getting 3 million. So I can work the math there. So if you put the tax somewhere else, you'll get more. Then there's taxes and for transactions down the line. If they're transacting other places, then you get into those other dollars. But from the wagers itself, if you say you put a 6.75% tax on the gross, on $1 billion, and you get 6.75 million. But if it's on the net, you get less, right? So we have to figure out where that's going to be and how much that's going to be, but it can't be prohibitive. Now, will we go above $1 billion in handle? It's possible in a couple of years, but we don't know where the numbers will be exactly. Maybe Carla or someone, you got some numbers on something else?
No, I would just want to expound on that, it's about consumer protection as well. And right now, we have to enhance that experience. And I also believe that, we're one of the few states that has professional teams in both men and women leagues. We have a lot of national tournaments here, and hopefully someday we'll get an NFL draft here, and that will just enhance the consumer experience. And it's time to shine some light on this and get it, where people feel protected if when instead of a black market experience. So also for the Gamblers Anonymous and the protection side of it, I'm active in NICLGs, which is the National Conference of Gaming State Legislators, and I know Representative Garofalo's been there, I know Senator Housley's been there. And over the years, as online and mobile apps have been refined, they have protections in there where when you win, there's a pause. You can't transfer the money to then start gambling right away again on another game, right? That's a pause to kind of make sure you're making the right decision. So there are safety measures put in place now by the mobile app designers to help with that as well. So those are things that, it sucks we're the 33rd, or going to be the 34th state if all goes well to do this. But there are things that have been learned along the way, and that's one. So just wanted to highlight that too.
First, I need to respond to Senator Bigham beating me this weekend. The last 6 years, I've won 4 out of 6.
Oh,
So just giving her some crumbs.
Don't tweet that.
Right, we need this just because we don't need to see Carla Bigham's spreadsheets anymore that she sends around. That's her makeshift sports betting. But we can't forget the fact that it's fun. It is so, so fun, and there are protections in there for those with gambling issues. But it's every Sunday, the Housley family goes to one of those other states, and we do $1, $2, $3 bets. There's TV screens all around the restaurant, and we spend all Sunday afternoon. We learn new words like parlay and spread, and how many yards Tom Brady's going to throw for. And it's fun. It is really, really fun. So Senator Chamberlain has all of the details, but we can't forget that this is something that Minnesotans really, really want, and it is extremely fun.
Senators, aside from the tribes, there has often been opposition within the caucuses, specifically the Republican caucus has always had a contingent of people who are very, very cautious about expansions of gambling. Do you have the blessings of the entire caucus, or Senator Miller? Where do you feel like the votes are going to line up on this?
So some of you have been around here for a while. That's correct. There's always been a challenge. Years ago, we had, some of you might remember, under then Governor Dayton and his gaming administrator, commissioner, they unilaterally tried to change something on pumps and everything. And it was almost unanimous to oppose that. And the opposition was all over the board, right? Why did you oppose this? Well, religious reasons, or protecting the tribes, or kids, whatever. So, or you didn't have the authority to do it, that sort of stuff. So it's all over the place, and these are things we are going to work through, and we have worked through them in the past. I will not speak for the caucus, but there's bipartisanship here, and some people obviously don't like it, but I think the general tone is we're good with it.
Is there a parallel track here for putting this on the Constitution as an amendment, as a question for the voters?
No, we're not going. No, we don't need to do that. All we got to do is put this through bill form, and we'll be fine. No, we're not going to do that.
What kind of support is there in the DFL caucus, to your knowledge, Senator?
There's a few. I mean, when the bill that I introduced last year is bipartisan, there are other senators on it, but I will say this is no secret that the tribal support is key for especially for our caucus. So, and making sure their voice is heard and respected is key for support. So I agree with Senator Chamberlain that we've got to let this go through the process, have the conversations with the stakeholders, and make sure that we get this done this session. I think is extremely important to do.
I guess I'll add just to that, is that the proper word is momentum. There is momentum for this to get done. Like I said earlier, the House, Senator Bingham, us, others, conversations, things we've heard. So there is momentum to get it done. There's always challenges, but there is momentum to get this done. And I love the idea that we emphasize fun, 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 fun. And I was reminded that Minnesota has a large compliance operation for gaming, so very large, very strong.
So if people get, if money disappears from their accounts, would the state have the ability to get that back or regulate that if they think they may be dealing with somebody shady or?
So I'm sorry, say that again.
I understand that one of the reasons you want regulations is because people can sometimes have money disappear from their gambling accounts, they're all on gaming accounts. Would the state have some teeth on that?
Well, I mean, what you're talking about is theft, fraud, swindle, right? It's illegal, it's a crime, it's already a crime, and if they do that, yes, the state already has jurisdiction and over that sort of stuff.
Give them your tagline.
Oh, you want my tagline again?
Enthusiasm.
So, again, it's Minnesota's, this is a winning ticket. It is time for Minnesota to do this, and we will cash in on this. So that is the bottom line, and we can get it done. There is momentum. We are excited about it, and I believe this will be the year to do it. So
Would you have an actual bill, do you think?
they're writing the language, so I think within a week or so. I mean, we'll have language to amend it or a new bill one way or another. All right? Is that it? All right, thank you very much. Pleasure.
Gee, Senator Housley, can liquor reform be far behind?
Run, quick, run.
Thanks, guys.
I'm back.
Did that make sense?
Yes, no, yes, it had, it's like,